I'm Fletcher Brown here with KIX 96 out in the Shoals, talking about country music, country music's biggest night. We're talking about the CMA Awards tonight. Obviously, you can watch it right here on WAAY 31. Before we get started, Fletch, you've been a multiple-time nominee for a CMA Award. To be nominated in just the class and the caliber of folks out there, what does that mean? What does a nomination mean to you guys and to the station?
Oh, it's huge. The Country Music Association is one of the biggest industry associations out there, like along with the Academy of Country Music and only like maybe one other. And to be recognized by the Country Music Association, which is made up of our peers of other country radio broadcasters across the United States, as long with like the country recording industry, the record labels and artists and things like that. It's made up of people and organizations. And for the broadcast awards, it's not like the broadcast awards aren't like the artist awards. The artist awards are voted on by CMA members, whereas the broadcast awards for radio stations in every market size, major, large, medium, and small, those are judged by people inside the industry, other radio professionals judge those. So to be nominated means that your peers looked at the body of your work for the previous year and said that you are worthy of recognition and acknowledgement. So for us to be nominated, which we weren't nominated this year, we did have one last year, but not this year. For us to be nominated the number of times we have been, it's huge, and it's just a big feather in our cap.
It's the equivalent of a regional Emmy Award for television.
Absolutely.
You get that kudos, so to speak, from folks in the industry. It really just kind of validates your work, and it lets you know that what you do matters, and what you do
It
on the
really
radio
does.
side, it matters. The big talk of tonight's celebration, tonight's show, is this tribute to Jimmy Buffett. Some people are kind of scratching their heads, right, wondering why country music and Jimmy Buffett. Can we kind of mix the genres? I mean, let's talk about, first of all, seeing something like this. Are we surprised that Jimmy Buffett is going to be memorialized on this platform?
Honestly, I am more surprised that anybody would be scratching their head that Jimmy Buffett would be a part of the country music celebration. I know for me growing up, through like the late 70s and the early 80s, my mother was a huge country music fan. I mean, that's why I know the country music songs that I knew from back in the day, George Strait and Merle Haggard and all that, because my mother was also a big Jimmy Buffett fan. I mean, and she loved all the same Jimmy Buffett songs everybody else did. And it's obvious, I think, just take the last 2 or 3 generations of country music hit makers. Almost all of them have a very clear influence from Jimmy Buffett. I mean, Kenny Chesney has all but built his career as kind of like a Jimmy Buffett Jr., almost. He had hits. Jimmy Buffett had hits. He had 2 with Zach Brown. He did the Alan Jackson song. They had a hit with that. He had his own country hit in 2006 with Bama Breeze. That whole album was kind of his contribution to country music. And of course, the work that he did with country songwriting legend and artist Mac McAnally over the year. I mean, Mac was a part of Jimmy Buffett's story, gosh, for decades. And Mac is going to be, leading that tribute on the CMA Awards tonight. And Mac, of course, being from the Shoals area, the idea that Jimmy Buffett is not a part of country music history is comical to me. The idea that someone would be confused by that. I'm like, oh, no. Jimmy Buffett's influence is all over country music, at least from my perspective, at least for the last 40 years, if not longer.
Knowing Mac's influence, having him be so close with Jimmy, having been producing his albums, been a part of the Coral Reefers and stuff like that. How emotional is tonight's tribute going to get? We were talking about just not Mac's connection, but Zach Brown and Kenny Chesney and Alan Jackson. They've all worked together, as you said, and they've formed kind of their brand, so to speak, off of the stories and the teachings of Jimmy Buffett. So we're prepared for an emotional night. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know that there's going to be anybody in that building where the CMA Awards are being held or watching that isn't going to feel something. I mean, even if you weren't a textbook parrot head, you probably have a favorite Jimmy Buffett song. You know, I mean, I know people in my, that I work with who routinely went to see Jimmy Buffett anytime he was playing anywhere nearby. And then there are those people that were just sort of like casual Jimmy Buffett fans, like myself. I think I've always been partial to like Come Monday was like my favorite Jimmy Buffett song. I don't know why, but that one just always kind of lived with me. And growing up with a mother who loved him as much as my mother did, it was all, I think, honestly, Jimmy Buffett's passing is right up there with any other musical icon. Michael Jackson, Prince, Aretha Franklin. You have all of these artists that their contributions to music went far beyond just what their fans loved about them, but they impacted the artists that came after them. And the artists never made, I mean, they always made that clear that these were the people who were my heroes. And that's one of those things that as a music lover and a listener, we sort of connect with our favorite artists on that level. When you hear if your favorite artist is Alan Jackson, and Alan Jackson says, I'm a huge Jimmy Buffett fan, and you're like, I am too, that's just one more way that you connect with that artist. So, and that they knew them personally. They knew Jimmy personally. They worked with him, and he impacted their lives and their careers in ways that we may never fully understand, but we also share in that loss that they feel, and we have empathy with them and for them. So I think personally, I think it's going to be one of the most moving tributes that we've probably ever seen at the CMA or any award show.
And really country music as a whole has always done a good job of honoring those legacies, those focal points, those people who have really made a mark in the music industry, or any type of historical national stuff, current events happening. Country music, we can always turn to them. They've always seemed to kind of be right there to help us get through it and move forward. And in this case, it's really no different with handling the passage of such a legendary figure.
Mm-hmm. Especially with one of our own. You look back at the tributes for like Merle Haggard to Loretta Lynn, and Jimmy Buffett was very much embraced by country. So we lost one of our own. As far as we were concerned, we lost one of our own.
People too, they don't understand Coconut Telegraph. That was studio album recorded right there in the Shoals. And then, Mac, obviously the connection with Mac McAnally, and it's just so much, and we're only 6 degrees, that Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation
Yeah, I
from
know.
these legends right here. Really fascinating stuff. We're all, I think, looking forward to seeing what they're going to bring to the stage tonight. Country music, though, it has changed a lot. Roller coaster ride here through the years, especially recently. So what are your thoughts, given your perspective and your tenure in the industry? Country music, where are we? Where are we going?
It's funny you asked me that, because my mother, who lives in Huntsville, who she's in her mid 80s, and she's infirm. She doesn't, her eyesight doesn't work, and so she listens more than she looks at anything anymore. And she called me the other day and said that she had turned on our station for the first time in a while. My mother, like I said, she hadn't been well, so she just really hasn't done things, but she likes listening to KIX 96, and so she turned on our station, and she hadn't listened to country radio in a while. And she said to me, she said, boy, it sure has changed. And I was like, yes, Mom. Yeah, I guess if you haven't listened to country radio in a while, you probably might feel like it sounds different. And I think it does. And but I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I know a lot of people have very, very strong opinions, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I'm not telling anybody that they're wrong. I'm not telling anybody that they're ignorant or anything like that. I'm just saying that from my perspective, music is an art form, and by its very definition, it's going to evolve, it's going to change. And the country music of the 90s wasn't the country music of the 60s, and there were people from that generation who would have looked at country music in the 80s and the 90s and said, what is this? This isn't country music. But I don't necessarily think that that's fair. I think what you really need to just look at is, does this music at its core, does it do the job that country music has always done? And the job that country music has always done is just sort of look at life in its simplest terms and in the most basic. It's like, I love that Luke Bryan song, Most People Are Good. And I think that that is a perfect summation and evaluation of country music. Country music is about having fun, it's about grieving loss, it's about living life, it's about working hard, it's about loving, your family, your spouse, your kids, being a good son, being a good father, being a good mother, daughter, what have you. It's about us. Trace Adkins had that song, Songs About Us, Songs About Me, rather. And that's what country is. And I think that's what country still is. And if you like a traditional sound, I completely understand that. I'm right there with you. My personal taste, I love a traditional sound. Give me from Merle Haggard to Willie Nelson, George Strait, you give me that all day long and I'm happy. But I think that there are artists now, we're seeing artists that are popping up now that have managed to sort of, I don't know if it's fair to say reinvent traditional sound, but definitely they've incorporated a traditional sound in what is a very modern country style. And I think it's very good. There are artists that are doing really, really good things like that. I mean, I personally think Morgan Wallen plays kind of fast and loose with, traditional to modern sound, and he does it very well. And it shows. Luke Combs has like Garth Brooks energy as far as I'm concerned. Luke Combs does. And there are new artists behind them that are showing up, guys that you might consider left of center, but very much in that country style. Zach Bryan, Chase Beckham, these guys are coming up. Lainey Wilson, who is unbelievable. That Louisiana girl has just floored me. Just everything that she's done is great. And I love her attitude, and I love how she thinks and how she presents herself. And there's really, really some great quality stuff. Ashley McBride, just really amazing country out there. So if you're somebody if you felt like country music had moved away from where you're comfortable and you moved away from the genre, from the format, I encourage you to kind of come back and revisit it. My mother agreed that it had changed, but she never said it was bad. She never said, I turned it off, I couldn't listen to it. She just said it's different. And
Okay.
I said, yes, Mom. Yes, it's different.
I like that. I like that explanation. Talking about Luke Combs, it reminded me. So they redid, I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but they re-recorded 2 Dozen Roses with Shenandoah.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I thought I listened to it over the weekend and I thought, ugh, okay, I have, very judgmental about this, right? How can you redo this? And is it going to be bad? Pleasantly surprised with that. And that re-release, that adding Luke Combs to it, it's hit #1. Shenandoah, of course, being from the Shoals. It's kind of fun, I think, to see the new generation pairing and respecting and paying homage, if you will, to the older generation too. So we're seeing a lot, aren't we? Just that mixing of old and new, and just a nod to the past.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's funny you mentioned that one, because Luke Combs, personally, I think is sort of like leading the way with that whole looking back and reaching back. Shenandoah, of course, they're amazingly talented musicians. They always have been. I remember being a little kid growing up in the Midwest and watching them on Star Search. That's how far back I remember Shenandoah. All right. And to now know, like Marty and Mike, to know those guys and call them personally friends is just mind blowing to me. But they are committed to continuing their legacy and the tradition of the country music they've always made, and embracing some of the newer artists. And artists like Luke Combs is very good at translating. I hesitate to say the old into the new, but that's kind of what he's done. And the 2 Dozen Roses duet that has come with Shenandoah and Luke Combs, it's brilliant. It's wonderful. You've got this classic country song that you loved then, and you have a chance to love it all over again, and it's brand new. But I think, like you said, it's like you might go like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, and then you hear it and you're like, this is amazing. All right, and Luke Combs did that the same as ways he did with Fast Car, which isn't even a country song, but it was a massive hit in the 1980s. Fast Car. If you're my generation, you grew up in the 80s, you knew that song. And he brought Tracy Chapman, who her mind was blown by the fact that her song reached this new generation that's not even in her genre, and he managed to translate that into country seamlessly, perfectly. He's honored for 4 nominations tonight, including for that song, for Fast Car, for Song of the Year. And Luke Combs, I think, is doing really, really amazing things, cutting edge things with new country without personally thinking me, without compromising in any way what I consider country values and country quality. And working with artists like Shenandoah and bringing songs like Fast Car into the genre and making them hits. It's a testament to his ability as an artist, I think.
That's awesome. And you know, Muscle Shoals, North Alabama is really, since the movie came out, the Muscle Shoals documentary, we've always been known, but really in the last decade, we have really kind of reaffirmed our place in the world in the music industry across the board. We're getting big names that you're going to see out there tonight. The nominees, some of the performances. We've got acts like Jelly Roll that they were here at the Orion Amphitheater earlier this year. We've got Lainey Wilson that's set to come back. She's up for a host of nominations tonight. She's coming to the Orion next year. What does this say too about our area being able to pull in some really big acts to North Alabama?
I think it says that the greater, larger music industry, Nashville, if you will, sees the value of our little corner of the United States. You know, I mean, even outside of the fact that we are 2 hours from Nashville, the proximity, it's more than that. It's the population base around here obviously has shown that it will support a venue like that, and it will support touring acts like that. I mean, Luke Bryan, who's hosting the awards, he's played the Orion Amphitheater. He's been there in the last couple of years since it's gone up. So the fact that these artists at that level keep coming back, it tells us that the venue is one that they really, really appreciate, that it's one that they like, that it has the potential to draw more, and that the population supporting it will only get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it makes our little corner of Northwest Alabama that much more relevant. I think as a concert destination, Huntsville is poised to become basically, on par with Birmingham or Nashville itself.
Exciting stuff. Kenny Chesney too. You know, he played there.
Yeah. Kenny Chesney played.
So yeah, forgot. Yeah, very exciting. Anything else you're looking forward to seeing tonight? Anything you think that viewers need to kind of be on the lookout for?
Oh, I don't know. It's like I was looking earlier at like the list of nominees, and like for Entertainer of the Years, like Luke Combs, Carrie Underwood, Morgan Wallen, Lainey Wilson, and Chris Stapleton are all nominated for Entertainer of the Year, which of course is the big one that everybody wants. And I'm like, out of that list of like 5 names, I honestly couldn't tell you who I would want to win that. All of them I think are very, very deserving of it. You've got like Female Vocalist of the Year, like Carly Pearce, Kelsey Ballerini, Ashley McBride, Lainey Wilson, Miranda Lambert. I mean, it's all over the place. All 5 of those artists on for Female Vocalist of the Year, all of them are unique to themselves, and they're all amazing. New artists, like I mentioned, the new artists, you got Jelly Roll, Zach Bryan, Haley Witters, Megan Maroney, Parker McCullum. You're seeing one of the things I've noticed, that you're seeing more female artists being nominated in more categories that aren't gender specific, which is something that has been on everybody's mind over the last few years, is like, the recognition that female artists get. And we're starting to see a lot more female artists receiving nominations and recognition in categories like Entertainer of the Year and New Artist of the Year and what have you. And that tells me a lot. I'm really just kind of excited about everybody that's nominated. The new artist list, I'm really kind of curious. I'm going to make my prediction. I think personally, I'm not betting on it, but I'm making my prediction that Jelly Roll is going to win New Artist of the Year. I think Jelly Roll has had, like, he's been like, the last year for him has been like just this steamroller of recognition. And everybody that has ever worked with him, everybody's ever met him, they all say the same thing, that he's just the nicest, most humble guy, and I've never met him, but I have seen him perform live in Nashville, and he is a pretty dynamic performer. My guess for new artists is going to be Jelly Roll. We'll see. But I think everybody on these lists is fully deserving of these nominations, and it's gonna be hard to pick a winner.
Yeah. We'll just have to wait and see. I know I personally, I'm anticipating that tribute for Jimmy Buffett tonight. I think a lot of
Absolutely.
folks will have a lot more eyes because people do want to see that, right? They're looking for that way. And on the release of that album too, I mean, it's just a lot of good stuff, a lot of emotions, an emotional night ahead for country music. Thank you so much for your insight as always. And if anyone's out there watching this interview, don't forget to listen to KIX 96 out there in the shoals. You stretch all the way almost to Huntsville. We can
We
get you.
get there. We do get there.
Yeah, we'll get you. And Fletcher Brown, program director, and in the afternoons on your afternoon drive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marie. Appreciate it.